Well, hello and welcome to Producer Dan. I'm Dan. Thanks very much for stopping by the channel today. So today I want to talk about the Velvet Virtual Electric Piano. Velvet combines 5 legendary vintage electric pianos from the 60s and 70s. The Fender Rhodes Suitcase 73, the Fender Rhodes Mark I and Mark II, the Wurlitzer 200A, and the Hohner Planet T. Now, these 5 instruments are a little different from one another. The Rhodes instruments used tines, hammers that hit metal tines, whereas the Wurlitzer instruments used reeds. On the Rhodes, the tines were all connected. It was all one piece. It had a different resonance than the Wurlitzer. This plugin cost $99 on the Air Music Technology website. I got Velvet bundled with my M-Audio Oxygen Pro 49 MIDI keyboard. It came with this. It came with the Mini Grand plugin and also the Hybrid 3, and I've done videos on those, so check those out. Obviously, you've heard that sound from music from the 60s and 70s. Another reason I feel this plugin is valuable is because these particular models of the Rhodes or the Wurlitzer, they're not made anymore. At least these particular models. Rhodes is making a Mark 8, which you can purchase on their website. You can have it custom made for about between $10,000 and $12,000. Also, just a fun fact, if you look at these Fender Rhodes keyboards on eBay from the 60s and 70s, they go from anywhere between $3,000 up to $10,000 for the earliest models in good condition. So, but you don't need to spend a lot of money to have this sound. So I'm going to go over the plugin. I'm going to go over the 3 different areas. There's the piano front panel here. The middle section is the preamp, EQ, and effects area. And the top area, they call it the setup area. You can add mechanical sounds, change the velocity, and that kind of thing. But first, I want to do something fun and go through some of the presets so you can understand how what this instrument can do. It has a very wide range of things that it can do with these effects. I also want to mention I'm using my Yamaha digital piano. It's sending MIDI to my keyboard. I'm also using a foot pedal for sustain. If you're using a piano plugin, it's very important to have that sustain pedal for authenticity. So make sure you have, whatever it is you're using, make sure you have a foot pedal for sustain. So let's go over the presets. Right now, the model is set to the Rhodes Mark I. Again, there's 5 here. And we'll cover all of this, but let's just go to the presets. The Mark I presets, here they are. And by the way, there's 350 plus professional presets. So this is very much plug and play, and it's very good to go through the presets just to see how they've come up with these sounds, what parameters they've used to come up with these sounds. So let's check a few of them out. This one's called Tape Delay. Very soft delay there. Let's check out some others. Dirty Tremolo. Yeah, the tremolo is gives it a very vintage feel. By the way, there's a recording artist, a recording group called 07, who started making music in 1997, and their sound is very much based on the Rhodes or the Wurlitzer electric pianos. Check them out. The music is kind of ambiance, kind of acid jazz, and they have some very good vocalists that they work with. So check out 07 for this kind, if you want to hear like a modern version of how this instrument can be used. This one's called Belly. There's a lot of playability with this. It's very velocity sensitive. It's very good to have the weighted keys of this piano. Dirty mechanic. So we're probably going to hear a lot of the mechanical noises that you would hear from playing one of these older instruments. Okay. Yeah, that was very severe. Let's check out the Wurlitzer A200 presets, just so maybe we can hear the difference between those reeds or the tines, the difference between the tines and the reeds of these, two different instruments here. Soft echo. Nice. There's a different sound there. It's not quite as rich and bassy. Maybe it's because of the settings that they have here, but there is a difference between those two instruments. This one's called No Power Next Door. Okay, so they're putting in a lot of the mechanical sounds, and this brings up a good point. You could play these instruments without power. They were like electric guitars. You could still hear them. They just didn't have any amplification from the pickups. So that's what that is, I would imagine. Slow wah. Yeah, there's a lot of good effects on this, and you can really kind of go there with this instrument and come up with something really cool, like the band 70 has done. I'm sorry, 07. I always get that mixed up. So that's about enough of the presets. Let's go through some of the parameters. Let's go through some of the sections and take a look at how this instrument works. So let's put this back to the default for the Mark I. There we are. And that resets everything, I believe, to kind of a flat line 0 with no effects. So starting down here in this area, again, this is where you choose the model. This is the master volume for the whole entire instrument. Next is the tremolo. You can put it in stereo or mono. So I'll put this in stereo. You can change the rate and the depth. Right now the depth is very low, so you're not going to hear anything, but we'll change the depth. Now you can hear it right to left. And you can change the rate here. And again, if you want that depth, you can pull that in to make it more of a mono sound or not quite as right to left. Or you can take it out of stereo and put it in full mono and still have the depth, but it'll be more down the center, kind of a kind of a off and on kind of effect. But I like the stereo, so we'll put that back in stereo, change the rate. Okay, so that is the piano front panel. The next section is the preamp effects. This is where you're going to have your EQ. You have the treble and the bass. The mid frequency you can scoop. In order to use the EQ, you have to click on the red button here. And now the EQ is engaged. So I can remove some of the bass from the sound. This is what it sounds like at 0. Pull that bass out. I'm going to turn down the tremolo just a little bit. One other thing this has is, since we've pulled down the bass, you can tell the volume has come down just a little bit, so you can raise the level. You can kind of level match what you had prior to pulling out the bass. Okay, now the midsection, this is very much like a EQ graph. You can kind of sweep through your middle frequencies here with this button, and then you can pull them down or push them up with this middle button. And you can change the shape of the cue with this button. So as you can see here, you can either make kind of a bell shape and scoop out the mids, or you can make kind of a notch and pull out certain frequencies with the cue. So I will kind of move this over to the left, and we'll get kind of a very wide bell shape, and we'll pull out some of the mids. This is before. And we'll pull them all out. Okay. So let's put this all back to where it was and move on, taking out the EQ. And there's this wonderful tube drive, and this adds harmonics and warmth. Hear kind of a fuzziness. Okay, there's also a compressor, and you can put the compressor before the effects, post effects, or pre effects. So let's put it post effects, and you can set this compressor to where it's kind of clamping in a little later, so you get the attack. It lets the attack come through, and then it clamps down, or you can put it over to this side to the right and have it kind of push that sustain, kind of hold out those notes longer, kind of compress everything down to one level, like you would a bass or something like that. So here's with full attack. I still have that tube drive on. So you're hearing some attack there. We'll move it over to the sustain side. And then when it's in the center, it's off. So that covers the compressor, the tube drive, and the EQ. Now let's have some fun with these effects. So in order to have the effects on, this red button has to be engaged. So you can turn all the effects on and off by using that button. So this needs to be on in order for any of these to be heard. So the first one is distortion, and then when it is highlighted in green, that means these parameters will control this effect. For distortion, you have some choices: fuzz, and you can control how much is mixed in to your sound. You can control control the drive. You can pull it down a little bit. Turn it up. And you can change the tone of it as well. Cut off some of the high end. I always think this is interesting. I'm sure this is what, bands who only had one guitarist and a keyboardist. So the guitarist goes into his lead solo, and so the keyboard would have to kind of kick in and play that rhythm guitar. So it could be done easily on one of these instruments if you turned up your distortion. So I'm going to take off the distortion here. Let's go to the wah effect. So, yeah, that takes you back to the 60s and 70s big time. Again, you can change the rate and the depth. Okay, taking out the wah. Let's move on to modulation. And there's chorus effect, a flanger, and two different phasers. So here's chorus. Let's mix that in. Chorus effects kind of detune, I think, is the best word for it, and just make the sound thicker. You can change the depth here and the rate. Yeah, it sounds like it's dividing and detuning and just making it bigger. Flanger. It kind of runs slowly through like an EQ sweep. And phaser. That's phaser 1. Okay, take that out. The next one is cabinet, so you can change the cabinet size. And I think, let's turn that on, and we're running through a large cabinet. That's going to give you a bigger, fuller sound, larger speakers. Here's a small cabinet. And here's amplifier down at the bottom. So you kind of get the sense that that's a smaller speaker, maybe an 8-inch speaker that's kind of very narrow in its frequencies. Let's put this back to large cabinet. Let's leave that on. Reverb. We have a spring reverb, a room reverb, and an ambiance. So let's start with the spring. You can change the pre-delay, which sets how long it takes for that reverb to kick in. It's usually done in milliseconds. So you can change the time of the reverb, and you can also mix in how much you want. Let's try room. That's nice. You can almost hear those walls in the distance. And ambiance. That's very kind of short. All right, so that's our reverb. I'll take this out, and we're going to move on to delay. turn on the red light there. And you'll see there's mono, stereo, and tape. You can control the amount of feedback. Feedback kind of controls the length of how long it'll go on. So let's turn that up just for demonstration's sake. And the tone is important too. I always, for delays and reverbs, I like to kind of shape that tone. You can easily set your delays in the background by kind of shaving off some of the high end. I'll turn this way up so we can hear like a sharper delay. Okay. And when we turn that down, it'll take those edges off. Kind of setting it in the background a little bit. And this is how much of the mix how much of it you want to put in your mix. And this will kind of change the speed. All right, so that's our delay. Now let's move up to the they call this the setup section, and that's where you'll find the mechanics section where you can add some mechanical noise in. We'll cover that. You can change the condition of your keyboard. You can have it in mint condition or turn it into kind of a bad condition and make it sound kind of janky and out of tune and old. So let's get into this section here. First of all, the pickup level, that is kind of like volume, but instead of an overall volume, this controls the amount of line output from your pickups to either the board or amp. Next, let's check out this mechanical noise. I'm going to take the effects off. Oh, I'm going to leave the cabinet. Let's turn this up so we can hear the effects. This is open. I think that kind of emulates this piano with an open lid where you'd be hearing more of the hammers. FM1, FM2, FM3, let's go through those. Definitely you can hear those, the different, I don't know if it's a different style of hammer they're using on these three FMs. It doesn't say, so I'm not sure, but there's definitely, you can hear kind of the hammers hitting the tines. Here's FM2. FM3. This one's called Bell. This one's nice. Definitely a different resonance there. Metal. Maybe those are metal hammers hitting the tines. This is perk 1 and perk 2. Definitely kind of a wooden sound on the hammers. That has kind of a boxy hit sound, boxy tone. Square. Kind of a soft, leathery sound. And the last one is, I can't read that. Does it say compra? That sounds just awful. So those are the mechanical sounds you can add for some authenticity. I'm going to turn this off. And the next one is key off. And this just kind of gives you some options to what the keys sound like as you're releasing the keys. Right now it's set to staccato. I'll turn it up so you can hear it. You hear that as we let go of the keys. I can hear my machine, but you can also hear it in the headphones. Next one is on. You can kind of hear it. You can kind of hear it kind of shutting down. Those keys are kind of shutting down. It actually gives it kind of an old sound, like they're kind of loose and rickety. I'm going to put this back on staccato. That's where it was. And the next one is condition, and this is where you can make your machine sound really, really old or really, really good. Right now it's set to mint condition. Let's turn it to bad and see what it sounds like. I didn't hear very much difference there, but it's supposed to kind of maybe detune some of the notes and maybe kind of give it an overall bad condition. This next section is just for memory, how much of your computer CPU is going to be used for Velvet. You can set it on the highest level, and that gives you the full sound, the full resonance. You can put it in the middle there, and it kind of takes away maybe some of the non-essential sounds or effects or resonance, or echo, and that's the lowest amount of information sent to your computer. So if you need extra CPU, you can change it here and kind of make this easier on your computer. Next one is fine tune. You can turn this up 2 semitones or down 2 semitones. Now this next section is velocity curve, and this is where you can kind of set the velocity sensitivity of the piano. Right now it's set to a normal response, right down, kind of straight down diagonally. And according to the graph, this is normal. And if we had them straight across the middle, that is no velocity response. So if we have it set this way, it's a wide dynamic range, giving you the widest. And then there is a timbre section where you can have a soft timbre or a hard timbre. Here's hard. So that is Velvet, the virtual electric piano plugin from Air Music Technologies. Check out my other videos that I've done on the other plugins from Air Music Technologies, and also the other 2 plugins that came with my M-Audio Oxygen Pro 49. The Mini Grand and the Hybrid 3 synthesizer. Check those out. So thank you so much for checking out my video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.